fantasy points per game over the last 5, 116 implied team total from Vegas. And Doug McDermott is questionable here. Could give Brogdon a little more volume if he needs any anyway. He was at a 32.4 usage rate last game. I think the Pacers are going to lean on him a lot here in a big game for them. And I expect Malcolm Brogdon to return like 5 or 6x here at this price.
That's great. Yeah, very affordable at 7,600. Who you got, Ryan?
I got somebody also very affordable. Joe Ingles, $6,200. Donovan Mitchell's out. We know that he suffered a bad ankle sprain. And the Jazz really use Ingles as a ball handler in a ton of sets. And even this morning, I want to keep an eye on Connolly because he's probable. But I think the Jazz are a little beat up right now. Ingles just last game, 53 fantasy points in 39 minutes for the Jazz. So the Jazz use him a lot without Mitchell.
All right, so take me to forward then. Who's your guy there, Ryan?
Forward, I like Jason Tatum. And I'm kind of playing the card of who's hot again. Just like Ingles is hot, Tatum is hot. He's $10,000, so I'm paying up for Tatum. They play Chicago. Jaylen Brown has a unrelated COVID illness. And I think Kemba got the same thing because that's what the reports say this morning. So if Kemba's out and Jaylen Brown is out, Tatum is going to get a ton of shots. And last game with Brown out, Tatum had 68 fantasy points. I think scored 44 American buckets. So I love Tatum against Chicago tonight.
All right, Kenny, who's your building block at forward?
I'm going to stick in this game between the Pacers and the Spurs. I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan at $8,000. One of the reasons that I really like Malcolm Brogdon and like this game in general is that the Pacers are number 1 in pace over the last 10 games. Something that makes DeMar DeRozan a sweeter play here is that the Pacers have had some huge defensive issues. They rank 25th in defensive rating over the last 10 games. So they're speeding it up and they're letting them score. And I think DeMar DeRozan here is in a really good spot at $8K. He's seen around the 38 minutes over the last 2. Last time out, he had a 32.7 usage rating with 50 GKFP. They look to him. And again, this is really a big game for both sides. The Spurs as well are battling for seeding out west. So I expect a lot of points here in a fast-scoring game, or fast-paced game, rather, a high-scoring game. The Spurs also haven't been great defensively either, Emerson. The Pacers, of course, have been the worst over the last 10, but the Spurs not far behind. So I like DeMar DeRozan to fill it up here. And again, 8K is pretty nice price to pay for him.
All right, let's go to big, beefy centers here, Kenny. 3 guys that'll cost you at least 10-6. You going one of them?
Absolutely. This is one of my staples. This is one of my rules of thumb here. You always want to attack the Golden State front court. They're weak. They're the weakest front court in the NBA, in my opinion. The numbers would back that up for sure. Joel Embiid here is 10.7K. He's got the Golden State Warriors have a 48.5% rebounding rate over the last 10 games. They are 23rd in points in the paint in that span, and they have the second worst rebounding rate in the entire league for the entire season. They've dealt with a lot of injuries there, but you know what? They're still dealing with injuries there. They still don't have James Wiseman. Kevon Looney, he's not very good down there. He's not a very good defender. And Draymond Green is generally on the perimeter. He's rotating around. He's not always just locked into the big man. I don't think he's really going to be locked into defending Joel Embiid tonight. So I don't know if they're going to be throwing him on Joel Embiid the whole time. The Warriors also have a very bad 3-point defense. We know Joel Embiid likes to shoot the 3. So I just think that there's so many ways he can score here against a defense that's really slipped over the last month. This used to be a good defense, Emerson. This is now a terrible defense for Golden State, and they've never been able to defend big men well. So I think Joel Embiid's a smash spot here against the Golden State Warriors.
Ryan, give me your building block, the man in the middle.
Yeah, I love the Embiid pick, and he was my first choice. But now I'll do a consolation prize of paying up for Jokic. $11,000 versus Memphis. And the biggest reason is Joe Val is out. No Valanciunas tonight. So it's going to be Xavier Tillman trying to guard Jokic. And that's not going to be great for Memphis. Jamal Murray's out. So Jokic is going to get a lot more touches like he has been. So I think that this is also a smash play of Jokic.
All right, how about a value play, Ryan?
Sticking to that same game, Xavier Tillman, I think, might start for the Grizzlies, and he's $3,400. It's very good value. Like I said, no Joe Val tonight. I want to keep an eye on Brandon Clark. He is questionable just like every night on the entire earth. He's questionable every night. But 22 minutes played, Xavier Tillman, last game, even with Valanciunas in. So I know Coach likes Tillman, but no Joe Val. I think Tillman gets even more bump of minutes.
All right, Kenny, building block. Need a value building block from you.
Yeah, I like Tillman, and there's, this is the state of the NBA now. There's so many people resting that there's so many opportunities here to take guys, between 3,000 and 3,500. So I'm not doing that, but it's sort of along the same lines. Dean Wade is $4,800 here. And I wanted to alert the people because Dean Wade was $4,800 about a week ago when he was on fire. His price went up over 5,000. He's now back down to 4,800 after a couple clunkers. But look, there's no Larry Nance, there's no Damian Dotson, there's no Dylan Windler for the Cavaliers. The Pistons have basically their entire roster out. Meanwhile, on the other side, or at least on the injury report, the minutes have been there when this team's been shorthanded. They've given Dean Wade the minutes. He's flashed 30 DKFP upside pretty consistently for this team. So I just think that, if you get a guy you could basically lock in for 30 minutes here, and who's shown the ability to score about a fantasy point a minute, I think he's a pretty good play here because, again, it's just a building block play. You're going to get at least 5K, I think, out of Dean Wade, if not more. And this is just a game where there's going to be so many value plays. There's going to be so many random guys on the floor. Dean Wade might actually be one of the better players on the floor in this game. So, yeah, give me Dean Wade against a weaker Detroit defense without all these guys.
All right, you two hang out. We're just getting started here on the Sweat. We're going to take a sportsbook look at tonight's NBA slate coming up. But first, we're price checking around the diamond right after this quick break. All right, back here on your screen, it is the Sweat. You can watch this puppy live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. You will see these two dudes with us quite a bit, our MLB panel, DraftKings contributors, Julian Edlow and Nick Fryer. Let's price check, dudes, your favorite play in the following price ranges on tonight's 6-game main slate. So, Jules, start me with a pitcher over 8K.
Yeah, we only have 4 choices here, so it kind of limits it. And I think the easy answer maybe would be somebody like Dustin May against Steve Buchanan's Seattle Mariners, but the Mariners are kind of good, I think. Maybe. I'm starting to believe in Steve's bet on them to win the AL West. I may have sprinkled on it myself. I'm going to break the rules a little bit. 7,900 is going to have to work. That's 8K. Joe Ross going up against St. Louis. He's going to give up a run at some point. He hasn't so far, so maybe he's been overachieving a little bit. But I think Nolan Arenado to St. Louis is a little bit of an overvalued acquisition. The numbers aren't going to be the same outside of Colorado. I don't believe that much in that lineup, and Joe Ross has already ripped through it once. His last start, he shut him out, 24.5 fantasy points. So kind of a weird slate. I'm looking at Joe Ross for 7,900 going against the Cards.
Okay, that's not over 8K. You cheated, as you always do. But, yep. Nick, would you like one of those 4 pitchers over 8K?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jack Flaherty here at 8.5K going up against Washington. And I know that I've said in the past that I don't like seeing pitchers go back-to-back outings against the same lineup. But I like the fact that he's already seen the big bats in Washington's lineup, not that like platoon squad that they were dealing with. And I know people are going to want to stay away from him because his swing and strike percentage is down a little bit and his barrel percentage is up double from what it normally is. But that's more because of what happened in his first outing, Emerson. And right now he's got 6 Ks, I think, in each of his last 2 outings. Either way, he's only given up 4 hits over his last 11 innings, and only 1 of them was for extra bases. So I feel comfortable with him in the 8K range. And then I can kind of pay on the little higher end on the sub 8K pitchers.
Jules, do you have a pitcher under 8K, not named Joe Ross?
I do, and because I only spent $7,900, I can take the guy who is priced up right with him at $7,700 because I've saved so much money, and I'm going to go with Dylan Bundy, who's at home going against a soft Texas Rangers lineup, lacking a lot of talent. And Bundy's been a great strikeout pitcher overall. He has 22 Ks on the season. He hasn't allowed more than 3 runs in a start yet. He's just been really solid, and the strikeout upside is there. So unlike a guy like Ross that's maybe getting a little lucky by not giving up a run yet, Bundy's given up a couple runs every game and still putting up fantasy points because he's going to get you 6 to 7 innings and he's going to strike guys out. And no Ranger bats really scare me here. So I think this is a nice slate to build some balanced pitching and go with a guy like Bundy.
Nick, hook me up. Pitcher under 8K.
I'm going to stay right with Bundy too. I agree with Julian, and I'm making some savings elsewhere with my hitters. But with Bundy, I mean, his swing and strike percentage, just to add on to what Julian said, is a little bit higher than it normally is at 13.4. He's among the top 50 in all of baseball and getting guys to swing at pitches outside the zone. And the Rangers, they lead the league in Ks against righties, and they chase quite a bit. So, I mean, this is a recipe for success. I think that Dylan Bundy is a must-have in your lineups tonight.
All right, Nick, how about a hitter over 4K? A lot of options here.
Yeah, a lot of options, but I think that the number one guy has to be Justin Turner, and I feel like that might be a little chalky because he's a little cheaper than the other guys, only at 5.5K. But he's been on fire lately. He's caught barrel 7 times already this season. That's half of what he did last year, and close to a third of the at-bats that he's had last season. And he's going up against Justice Sheffield, too, against a lefty. He mashes lefties. What is it? He has a 1.139 OPS against righties. So even if he goes up against their bullpen, if Justice Sheffield gets smacked around early, he's going to do well. But his OPS against lefties is 1.395, 3 doubles, 2 home runs. So I feel very confident against him. And then Sheffield's given up a pair of bombs to righties in 11 innings already this year. He's been barreled up 6 times. So I feel like Justin Turner is a must-have tonight.
Jules, were you nodding your head in agreement there?
Yeah, we're on the same page yet again. I think Turner is, there's other places that you can spend, but I think that Turner is kind of a cut above the rest of the guys that are, expensive bats on this slate. He's been on fire lately. Dude's hitting over 400 with 5 homers, 16 RBIs, putting up the numbers. And maybe there'll be a little bit of regression, but he's in a good matchup. Once again, he's got that opposite hand matchup that he needs against Sheffield to start the game, and Nick touched on the bullpen situation. So, I'm looking to try and go somewhere else, but I think it's Turner by a pretty good margin. And like Nick said, it's chalky because I think a lot of people are going to see this. There's a reason we agree and think that he's so far above the rest of the guys, but that's fine. I'll eat the chalk here, and you can be different elsewhere.
Nick, you mentioned earlier you're going to save the people some money with a value bat. So give me that hitter under 4K.
So I don't want to break the rules like Julian did because I did look at Mitch Haniger, and
I have no problem doing that.
Well, Mitch Haniger is 4K. So it was either hitter under and hitter over.
That's
4K.
Fine. That's fine.
So he's at 4K, and he's been doing really well against righties throughout the season. And Dustin May righties are hitting him better right now. But for the sake of the rules, I went with a guy under 4K as well, Emerson. So I'm giving people 2. Andrew Benintendi at 3.3K. He's going against Josh Fleming. And look, I know Benintendi hasn't been the same since 2019. I know last year was a weird year for him. It was an extremely strange year for the Red Sox. But in his last 3 games prior to Kansas City's second game of their doubleheader on Saturday, Benintendi had 3 doubles had a double in each of his 3 previous games. And 2 of those doubles came against lefties. Fleming has actually given up 3 hits and a 1 inning and a third against lefties so far. It was just his one start, but his 1 home run that he gave up came against lefties. And that was against the Rangers lineup too that Julian was talking about a ton before. I know there's some pop there, but still lefties hitting well against Fleming. Reverse splits. I like Benintendi in a get right game here.
All right, Jules. I usually say hitter under 4K. This is when you'd be like, yeah, Mike Trout, $6,000. That's fine. But give me one under 4K. I
actually break the rules against my favor. You wanted an expensive pitcher. I gave you a cheaper one. I'm helping the people out. I'm not being cheap.
You're amazing.
In my own favor.
You are amazing.
I'm putting my reputation on the line to help people here. I heard Mitch Haniger, and then I started checking out the Red Sox game, which is live, and I start paying attention again. And Nick's talking about Andrew Benintendi. I don't know what happened there, but I had Andrew Benintendi circled as the value guy, honestly. So we're way too much on the same page. These guys are all probably going to be horrible tonight.
Or amazing.
Just scroll through like the projected lineups, though. There's not much. There's just not much to pick from that's at the top of the order that's below 4,000. So I don't want to give you a guy that's going to be on the bench. Benintendi's been hitting pretty well lately. He's one of the cheapest guys that you can find that should be in the lineup on the slate. He's 3,200. He should hit second. Nick touched on the splits. So like for me, it's Benintendi until we see these lineups start to roll out and something's there that maybe shouldn't be there. A guy gets a day off that shouldn't. And you get another guy that's, 3K range that's hitting lead off, second, whatever, and we can go there. But for now, it looks like it would be Benintendi.
Jules, let's go slate approved pick here, but we're talking favorite DK Sportsbook bet tonight. What do you have?
Well, I'm glad the Red Sox game started because I would have given you no run in the first inning, and of course the White Sox just scored. So that one's not on. You can't hold me accountable for that one. I wasn't able to give it out in time. I don't love that much tonight. I'm going to go with my guy Joe Ross, like we talked about at the beginning, going against Jack Flaherty, who obviously has the reputation of an ace. He's a very good pitcher. But I will take the Nationals for some plus money on the first 5 and say that Joe Ross gets the job done again early against St. Louis.
Nick, favorite DK Sportsbook bet tonight?
Without question, Dylan Bundy's over 6.5 Ks right now. He's at minus 105 when I last checked against the Rangers for all the reasons that we were talking about before. And just to note, he had 6, 10, and 6 Ks in his 3 outings so far. None of those teams strike out more than the Rangers do, especially against righties. So I feel like this one is a lock right now at minus 105. I like Gossman too against the Phillies, but if I'm just picking one, I'm going to go with Bundy at over 6.5 Ks tonight.
I like the Bundy prop.
Okay, good. Well done, guys. Appreciate it. 8 games on the docket around the NHL, and Jeff Ulrich is here to help you stack up the perfect DFS lineup in just a moment. All right, time to put this show on ice. 8 games on tonight's NHL slate, and helping us find the best DFS and sportsbook plays is our Canadian Prince of Poutine, DraftKings contributor, Jeff Ulrich. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, friend. Long time no see. Glad you're here with me.
I'm glad you are here as well because we don't have many guys who can talk hockey. So you tend to be what we fall back on. Connor McDavid, though, my friend, tops the price list per usual.
Thanks for the endorsement.
Listen, man, I'm just being honest. I've been hanging out with Julian Edlow too much. All right, so Connor McDavid tops the price list per usual, but his matchup against Montreal may not be as good as it looks because no goals, just apples, and he's averaging around 5.9 DK fantasy points against the Habs this year. So is he a fade for you tonight? Why or why not?
Yeah, it kind of is. And there's a couple factors that go into it. One is definitely the Canadiens matchup. It's not as good. Obviously we saw a couple points against the Jets. He's got a really good record against them, but the Oilers have typically just played really close games against Montreal, and often it's led to them not scoring many goals. So Montreal's a better defensive team. Well, there's a coming in rested, so I wouldn't be shocked if McDavid had a decent game. But a lot of the other part of this is just the way the slate is working out. I mean, we've got some really good high-end defensemen I think we might want to pay up for in really good spots, who we'll talk about in a bit, going up against weak penalty kills. Then you've got some pretty good value at the other spots at forward as well. Guys like Alex Barkov at 8,200 going up against Columbus. Columbus is a fantastic matchup for a guy like Barkov, who's really been on kind of a roll lately, shooting the puck a little bit more this year, averaging about four shots on goal over his last 10 games, over a point per game, well over a point per game on the season. I like going down to Barkov, and there's other forwards as well, though, that you can target here, like the Flame stack against Ottawa. So all things considered, the way this slate is working out, I think you can kind of fade the top couple plays, and that includes McDavid, and you kind of try and stack more of these mid-tier plays against the weaker opponents.
Let's take a look at a couple of Vegas wingers here. So Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone have a favorable matchup against San Jose. We know how many shots they like to give up. Stone will cost you $1,600 less in salary than Pacioretty. Is he a good pivot option on the wing tonight?
I mean, it definitely sounds like these two would be a great defense attorney for him, like Pacioretty and Stone, right? Going to bat.
Just see them on one of those infomercials, It
really does sound like they should get on this, but they do make for a good DFS stack as well here. It's a good matchup against the San Jose Sharks. Sharks come in losers of 5 in a row. Their goaltending is it's terrible. Martin Jones can't stop the puck now again. He had a 2-week stretch where he was good, and he's kind of reverted back to his normal self. They have third stringers now that they've kind of, after they've traded Devin Dubnyk. So even if they sit Jones, you're going to get a weak goaltender here. Vegas is just on a roll too. This is just a mismatch in all sort of areas. Vegas averaging well over 4 goals per game over their last 6. Pacioretty's a great target tonight. You can pair him with Stone. But Pacioretty would be one of the studs that, again, I don't mind paying down from Connor McDavid to get. Realistically, you can think about guys like Jonathan Marchessault against the Sharks here as well. You could stack that Vegas second line, but Pacioretty is a guy I don't mind starting with. He's still producing on lower shots on goal as well. His shots on goal have dipped a little bit, but he's still producing. He's got 4 points over his last 2 games here coming in. Again, the Vegas offense has been hot. So, yeah, I like paying down for Mad Max here. You can definitely pair him with Stone if you want to get, stack that entire Vegas sort of first line and think about Shea Theodore as well. But Pacioretty's the winger that I kind of like paying up for sure.
Okay, I'm just waiting for you to make that T-shirt, Pacioretty and Stone.
Okay.
That's a great idea. You can make some extra cash. I just wanted to know
Great. I need it.
We know. Flames captain Mike Giordano finds himself in a good matchup against Ottawa tonight. 37-year-old defenseman has 5 points in his last 4 games. Is he one of your favorite blue liners over 6K tonight, or would you pay up for someone else?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's good we're bringing up Giordano because, obviously Vegas has a great matchup going to get up against the Sharks, but the Flames against Ottawa is a team I think you should be on the lookout for as well. I mean, Calgary walks into this game. They're playing a little bit better. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. Now their offense is starting to roll a little bit, and they've stacked, their kind of top line here. So Giordano playing better. They're playing him more on the power play 1 to try and get that offense rolling. And it has been as well. So Giordano at this price going up against a weak team like the Senators. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. And if you are going to use some of the Calgary forwards, like a guy like Elias Lindholm, who's been on fire lately, or Johnny Gaudreau, pairing him with Giordano makes a ton of sense. Now, again, I mentioned there's multiple defensemen and players. Shea Theodore, 5,800 against the Sharks. I like paying up for 2 guys here. I like Giordano and Theodore. You can make them kind of your dynamic duo and then go with more of mid-tier stacking for your forwards here. So all things considered, Giordano should definitely be on your list, but there's multiple guys on defense, Roman Josi, that you can pay up for tonight as well.
You're doing such a phenomenal job. I'd like to take a look at the DK Sportsbook here for the NHL. Is there a game total you have your eye on tonight?
As far as game totals go, Montreal and Edmonton, I really would target the under here. I mean, it's 5.5. It seems like a small total for a team like Edmonton, who is up there and, top 10 in terms of goals scored. But the Canadians have just done a good job at shutting the Oilers down. You look at the last few games between these two teams, all kind of hitting under 5 goals easily. So, the Oilers coming off a break, but their goaltenders have been fairly solid. And realistically, we're just targeting the Canadians here as an offense that really just doesn't score a ton of goals lately. They've kind of been that way since the beginning of the year. So, you're getting plus 102 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook to take the under 5.5 goals. I like that. That's probably one I would target. Again, most people not leaning towards the under in the Oilers games, but this is really an opponent here who, really leans towards the under, and they've dragged Edmonton towards unders in most of their matchups as well. So as far as totals go, that's probably my favorite. Again, it does come down to price as well, and you're getting a really good price there to take the under at 5.5.
Before you skedaddle out of this segment, slate approved pick, your favorite bet or DFS play tonight on the NHL slate.
I'm in a giving sort of mood, so I'm going to give you one of both. I do like stacking that Calgary top line for DFS. Lindholm, Goodrow, Matthew Tkachuk, great matchup against the Ottawa Senators. They're all really easy to fit into. Great value getting there. But then let's go to the DraftKings Sportsbook. Vegas, puck line, plus 104 to cover the minus 1.5 against the Sharks, who again lost 5 in a row. They have terrible goaltending. Vegas is just killing opponents at this point. The fact you're getting plus money on the puck line with Vegas tonight is actually surprising to me. They're at home as well. So I really like Vegas on the puck line tonight too.
All right, man. I'm going to need you for our Madden Bracket Final preview coming up. Sorry, my dogs are like battling behind me. I'm like so distracted right now. So before we have you help us, I'm really trying to focus right now. Before we have you help us with Madden a little later, though, we're going to rip through some NBA sportsbook plays right here after this break. All right, we took a DFS look at tonight's NBA slate to start the show. So if you missed that, hit the rewind there on YouTube. But right now, we're going to chase or fade the following NBA sportsbook plays on tonight's slate with our three-man squad, DraftKings contributors, Julian Edlow and Kenny Ducey, along with the host of the Four Seasons podcast for Ball is Life. That's Ryan Mogjosh. Jules, Wizards favored by 11.5 over the Thunder. Chase or fade, they cover the largest spread of the evening.
10.5 this morning, already on the move again. Now it's at 12. I don't know if we thought that we would see the Wizards favored by this many points this season. It's pretty crazy. So you got to think it's the other way. And then you look at what the Thunder have done recently. They're on 10, 11, 12 game losing streak they're on now, and losing games in there to bad teams by a lot of points. Like just getting blown out by teams missing half of their own team. So there is no way that I can back the Thunder in any capacity right now. At the same time, I'm not going to lay 12 with the Wizards. I don't. If you made me bet the game, I'm betting the Wizards because I cannot possibly back OKC. Maybe I would do it on the first half line to try and avoid a huge spread on what would have to be a blowout. But yeah, I don't. My main takeaway is that it's amazing that the Wizards are 12-point favorites right now.
Is it that amazing in your eyes, Ryan? And do they cover?
Everything Julian just said is correct, but still there's a part of me that does not like betting Wizards and 12 points. I am fading this. Everything adds up and it seems correct, but it's just one of those things where anything can happen. I know that the Wizards are hot. They've won their last 4 games, but they're inconsistent in those. They play good teams good, bad teams bad. They win by double digits one night and then play close bad teams the next. It's just all over the place for me. So I'm just law of averages. I'm fading.
Kenny, they covering? Chase or fade?
Yeah, it's the Wizards have covered 7 and 8. This has been a great story, but they have not been asked to cover a double-digit spread all season long, at least when they've been favored. This is kind of ridiculous. But look, OKC does have the third worst defense over the last 10 games. I don't know how they stopped Bradley Beal. Poku's been great, but other than that, nothing really jumps out at you about this team. I actually think that they could cover this. I do. I think that we've seen a lot of weird results here. We've seen a lot of blowouts late in the season, just with teams not tanking because that really doesn't exist anymore, but just kind of giving up. The Thunder are one of those teams that are just kind of giving up on the season. They've punted on the season. The Wizards look like they're, Russell Westbrook is still interested in playing very well. So yeah, I think they could cover this spread. Again, I don't know how they stop Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook.
Guys, we have the Spurs and Pacers, essentially a pick 'em here. San Antonio -1. So chase or fade, they cover it, Ryan.
I am fading this. I think the Pacers are the better team. Kenny touched on it last segment, though. They're playing different. And different, I mean no defense. And this game is going to be fast-paced. I just think that Brogdon and Sabonis are not going to be able to be guarded by anybody that San Antonio has. It's going to be up and down, a lot of shots made. But, you said it, essentially a pick-em game. I'm going with Indiana.
What do you want to do, Kenny?
This is a really tough one for me because I think that Ryan makes some good points about how they simply, I think, have the 2 better players on the floor, or the 2 best players on the floor, Indiana. But I actually like the Spurs here. I think that the Spurs, this game means just as much to them as it means to the Pacers. They're hanging out to that 10. They're hanging on to that 10 spot out west. And the Pacers defense is the biggest concern for me, as Ryan touched on. They are 25th over the last 10 games. I think that makes a difference. The Spurs are still a pretty, rock steady defense here. I tend to bet based on defenses. And to me, I have to take the better defense here in what should be a game with a lot of possessions. A lot of chances here for the Spurs to get stops and a lot of chances for them to score on an Indiana team that, again, has just been so bad stopping the ball. And not to mention, they've been kind of banged up. Doug McDermott might miss this game. So, yeah, give me the Spurs.
Jules, do they cover? Chase or fade?
Yeah, it's a weird game. I'm going to chase the Spurs here, and everything it makes sense that the Pacers win this game. Why are the Pacers 1-point underdogs at home to this San Antonio team? But then you look into the numbers. The Pacers are, both of these teams actually, wild home road splits. The Pacers are 9-16 at home. The Spurs, who are a losing team at home, are 15-10 on the road. The Pacers have covered 1 time in their last 12 home games. They are spiraling out of control at home for some reason. It feels kind of gross. The Pacers should be a better team than the Spurs. And then you have the Spurs, who are 17-8 against the spread on the road this season. So are the Pacers better? Maybe, but I got to go with the numbers, and the numbers are all about the Spurs.
Suns and the Bucks, guys, is the largest total tonight. Chase or fade that these 2 teams go over 233 points right now on the DK Sportsbook. Kenny.
I'm going over here. The Suns defense, the Suns team in general, they're great. I think that they might be the best team out. It might be the best team in basketball, honestly. But this is not the same team as we're used to, right? We were used to this team playing elite defense, Chris Paul grinding the pace to a very slow halt here. The Suns defense is outside the top 10 over the last 10 games, which is kind of crazy to say. They were a really slow-paced team. They're not that way anymore. The Bucks obviously are one of the fastest-paced teams in the NBA, if not the fastest-paced team in the NBA. They love to push the tempo. So I think this total here, I don't think it's high enough. I think that this game goes over. There should be a lot of scoring. And again, there's always the potential for overtime when you get two teams as evenly matched as the Suns and the Bucks. I think that there's going to be a lot of scoring down the stretch, maybe even an extra session. I think this game goes well over here. I love this total.
Jules, you love this total?
I probably don't love it as much as Kenny. It sounds like he's probably going to bet it. I'm probably not going to bet it, but I do lean to the over. The only thing that scares me is, you get two good teams. You want to say like maybe a finals preview, but it's not going to be. Where these teams like lock up and give a little bit more on the defensive end. But again, numbers go the complete other way. The Bucks are 18-9 to the over at home, while the Suns are a better over team at home. They've gone over in 8 of their last 11 overall. Milwaukee's gone over in 13 of their last 20. Like, these teams have been putting up points, and I think that we should see them in this game.
Ryan, chase or fade, the Suns and Bucks go over 233 points.
I'm also chasing this. It's 3 for 3. Giannis looks back 28, 11, and 8 last game, and I like that for the Bucks as far as scoring points goes. I don't know if you guys watched the Golden State-Boston game just the other night, but as we get closer to the end of the season, fans are starting to come to the games. Games feel real. Games feel meaningful now. I think this is going to be one of those games. Both these teams need a W to keep up. I think that the Bucks are second in the East right now, and the Suns are second with a dwindling Utah team without Donovan Mitchell. I think this game means a lot, even though it's an Eastern team versus a Western team. I think this is going to be a very meaningful game tonight, so I'm going over.
All right, so Jules, one of the lower totals, I think it's tied for the lowest currently on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You got the Jazz and the Lakers, so I want you to chase your fade that they go over 215 here.
Yeah, I'm going to go over here. This is an interesting total because these two teams played on Saturday in the national game in the afternoon, and Utah essentially rested everybody. Mitchell was out and will remain out, but Gobert is off, Conley's off, and the total closes 215. Now those guys come back and sitting at 214.5. Gobert obviously has an impact, maybe even more so on the defensive end than offensively, but Utah scored 115 points in that game that they lost and gave up 127 to the Lakers. I think this is going to be right around the same type of score, but with Utah getting the game with their players back. So I think it should be another pretty comfortable over in my mind.
Is it a comfortable over in your mind, Ryan?
Yes, I'm also with the comfortable over. And like Julian said, they just played last Saturday, and granted the players on the floor are going to be different this time around, but I think that those players coming back do impact scoring points as well. And also I have this, might be a hot take, might not be, but they do a lot of isolation possessions with Spida when Donovan Mitchell's in. Maybe this total doesn't reflect that as much, and maybe without Spida that they are a little bit more run and gun or have a tendency to be more a transition team, even if that's slightly without Donovan Mitchell. But who knows? I think this is a comfortable over, though.
We going with the sweep here, Kenny, an over.
No, we're not going with the sweep. I think that Gobert being back actually impacts. I think the meaningfulness of this game, Gobert being back, that impacts the total in the other way. I think that this game goes under. Ilyasova and Favors are also questionable for this game. The Lakers have all these guys listed as probable, but as we saw last game, that doesn't even matter one bit. I mean, these guys went from probable to out last game. So there's always the chance that they could be short-staffed, the Jazz could be short-staffed. But the thing about it is that both of these teams are playing just phenomenal defense over the last 10 games. And while the Jazz don't have Donovan Mitchell, they do still have a bunch of great defenders. Joe Ingles gives them length at the point guard position. I just think that this game's going to be so hotly contested, so important that it's just dragged out. And as we saw in that when the Luka Doncic hit that leaner from 3, and that game went over. We saw another example of an important game, a big game, coming down to like 3 possessions in like a minute and a half, or it felt like it anyway. So I don't think that there's going to be many scores down the stretch here in a very close game. And I just think ultimately this game goes on. Both of these defenses are playing that well for me to take this low total.
Slate approved pick time. Favorite DK Sportsbook NBA bet tonight. Ryan.
I like Mikal Bridges over 11.5 points. It's the highest point total of the entire night. And the tendency for the Suns to play Mikal Bridges a lot of minutes when they're playing a team with a bunch of good wings. Chris Middleton, good player. Giannis, good player. I think that he's going to have to be on the floor a lot to guard those type of guys. Maybe not Giannis so much, but Chris Middleton for sure. And so he's going to get minutes. And on the season, he averages 12.8 points a game. So with the over and his averages just for the whole season, I'm going over 11.5 for Mikal Bridges.
Kenny.
I like the Sixers minus 6.5 here. I think that the Warriors front court is that bad. They've been atrocious rebounding the basketball. They have the 3rd fewest rebounds per 100 possessions, the 2nd lowest rebound rate in the NBA this year. Joel Embiid, Dwight Howard, Ben Simmons, these are all guys, they're very long. They rebound the basketball quite well. The other thing about the Golden State Warriors is we know that their entire offense is Steph Curry. Who's he going to face tonight? Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has locked up the best point guards in the NBA. Luka Doncic can't score against this guy. Neither will Steph Curry. I think that the Golden State Warriors offense is going to be hurting in a big way, and this front court is going to get absolutely demolished by Philadelphia's big men. And then Ben Simmons, of course, this team leads the league in post-ups per 100 possessions or per game. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, like these guys just post up their defenders and run them into oblivion. And I don't see any way the Golden State Warriors with this weak front 2 get anything done on defense against the Sixers. So I think they cover this spread pretty easily. I think they handle Golden State and get a big win.
Jules, bring us home your favorite sportsbook NBA bet tonight.
Kenny, do you like the Sixers enough to take them -9 because that's the real spread?
Sure, why not? I think the Golden State Warriors getting crushed. Maybe the first half, like you usually like. But
All
this
right,
is what
cool.
It was like 6.5 when I checked last night.
Great. You guys think I cheat? Kenny just gives himself 2.5 points on spreads.
That was the
Anyway.
opener.
Yeah.
That wasn't a fake line.
Kenny, they changed though, man. Come on.
Odds and lines are subject to change. Anyway, fortunately, we missed out on my if you watch the MLB segment, I would have bet Red Sox no run first inning. There were 7 runs in the first inning of that game.
This is
That just means we're
ridiculous.
due for a win here.
I took the total was 7.5. I took the over. I felt great.
Yeah, congrats on the win. I'm going to go I want to bet the Celtics -6 here. I want to see what their injury report looks like. Obviously, this number is kind of up in the air because of, Tatum probable, Brown questionable, Kemba questionable. I don't know what mix match of players we're going to get in this one, but I know that the Bulls are not themselves right now. They've lost a bunch in a row, and they are going to be without Zach LaVine for a while. So if 2 of those 3 really of Boston's best players are in, I will get on the Celtics -6 pretty quick, and it will start moving. If for some reason those guys are out and this isn't something we can play, the Spurs that we talked about, I would bet Spurs money line.
Toodles to everyone, but Kenny, you and Jeff are previewing tonight's Madden
Be
Bracket
honest in the
Final.
next segment, Kenny. Don't lie.
Well, they don't
Dobbs.
change the prices on DraftKings, so.
Oh my God, one of my dogs just farted. That smells terrible. DOS Seahawks in Tampa Bay after our final quick break. That is. This is it. Don't get scared now. The Madden Bracket Final. We've waited years for this. Simulated blood, simulated sweat, simulated tears. And the final two teams standing are the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. Let's preview this one with DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Kenny Ducey. BT Dub, we have a graphic here to show everyone just how much cash they can win tonight. A $35,000 bracket challenge final contest. $15. That's what it'll cost to enter. That's nothing. Go lift up those couch cushions, people. 10 grand to first place. So who would you captain here, Jeff, between the Seahawks and the Bucs?
Well, look, we got a couple of pretty good simulated quarterbacks in here, in Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. Wilson, averaging over 22 points per sim. So you're going to want to probably fit both of them. Even though I kind of a little bit against Russ tonight, I do think that you want to go for some value. You want to target the upside in your captain spot and save a little bit of money. Typically in the Madden sims, you do that by targeting a wide receiver. Let's go with Chris Godwin. Let's go with the third most expensive player here, 13.8. I mean, Godwin's averaging a little bit more per sim than Mike Evans. I like that. He's caught 6 balls in his last 3 games coming in. So he's hot from a sim perspective, but realistically, it's a pretty solid matchup too. The Seahawks have decent rated defensive players like Bobby Wagner, but their corners really aren't that good. So I like the spot for Godwin. Again, it saves you the cash in the captain spot so you can fit those quarterbacks in your flex.
All right, Kenny, who are you going to captain?
I'm going to captain Greg Olsen at $74, or he's not $7,400. He's $7,400 in a flex. He is 11.1K. I like captaining Olsen here because it lets you get Russell Wilson in your lineup. I think that Russell Wilson probably will be the top scorer in this game. But the problem is I want to get Wilson in there. I want to get DK Metcalf in there. I don't think you can do that really well anyway, effectively, if you captain one of them. I like Olsen here because he's cheap. He's a wreck machine. He's got 5 wrecks a game over the last 3. He had 8 before that. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter, right, what's happened recently because it's just any given sim day. But this guy seems to be the most consistent guy on the Seahawks in terms of getting targets and receptions. That is what I like the most when I'm targeting people in Madden. So I like Greg Olsen here in the captain spot. I think that he has a lot of upside here. I think he has 20 DKFP upside. And again, what he doesn't give you with his scoring, I think he gives you with the ability to roster other guys. If you can throw 30 points in your captain spot and then fill in Godwin, Wilson, and Metcalf below him, I think that you are cruising here.
Does it concern you he had only 3 points against Tampa Bay last time out?
I mean, no, it doesn't. I think both of these defenses, well, the Seattle defense isn't as good, but I mean, I've seen plenty of times we have, I think, both where there's a lot of variance between what happens the last time two teams play and what happens this time. So I just think that, again, the targets are there. The odds are in your favor. Like
we say any given sim day for a reason, because whatever you expect going into these is probably not going to happen. Kenny, you have a value play though?
I do. It's a guy I play every single time I'm on a Seahawks sim. It's Carlos Hyde at $5,200. He sees the field a lot because he's in the shotgun formations with Russell Wilson. They love the Seahawks offensive line, these Madden creators. They really do. And they programmed them pretty good. I think that, Chris Carson's a very fun option for a lot of people. He's a popular option. But I think Hyde here is the sneaky play. He also gives you usually around 2 or 3 catches in the passing game as well. I think you should be pretty involved here. $5,200 is a little cheap for me. That's, anytime you're on the wrong side of the backup quarterbacks, I think that you're getting a little disrespected here. And Carlos Hyde, he's a pretty good play, pretty strong play in that price range.
Jeff, what do you got for a value play?
Look, some great analyzing this by Kenny.
Wait a minute. Did you just invent a word?
Analyzing is this by Ducey there. Look, you do want to target the running backs in this game. McCoy, Hyde, they're great plays. But let's get a little bit creative here. Let's go for the gusto here. Tampa Bay was my pick pre-tournament. They're still here. They're in the final. Look, in real life, they dragged a 40. How old is Tom Brady? 44, 45. They dragged Tom Brady to a Super Bowl championship. If they can do that in real life, they can do that in Simland as well. The Buccaneers DST has a lot of highly rated players. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 players with 85 or better Madden ratings on this team. And why do you want to target the DST against the Seattle Seahawks? Because Russ Wilson runs the ball. If you watch those Madden Sims people on the DraftKings YouTube channel, you know that the rushing quarterbacks, they like to carry that football like a loaf of bread, Emerson, and they fumble a lot. It's actually a pretty good matchup for the Tampa Bay defense. Like I said, they have a lot of highly rated players. I like going with the Tampa Bay DST for the big tournaments. They're going to be really, really low owned. And again, you're going to have multiple turnover opportunities against Russ.
Before I get your game prediction, just some NFL news. Alex Smith has retired, so he will not be playing football moving forward. Anywho, we have 3 minutes to play real quick. Comeback player of the year last year. So, all the respect and props to him. Yeah, for sure. But Jeff, let's get your game prediction here. Like, how do you think this thing's going to play out? These are tough to predict.
I do. They are tough to predict. Obviously, I think it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. Again, I like this Tampa Bay defense. They're tough to score on. And then you've got Tom Brady on the other side, who, again, if you've watched Tom Brady in these Sims, he's very much like Tom Brady in real life. He just converts on 3rd and long all the time. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay keeps it close. Brady rallies, wins. Tampa Bay wins 21-17.
Kenny, what do you think?
I like the Seattle Seahawks to win here. I think that everything that Jeff's saying about the Buccaneers defense, you can say about the Seahawks defense. I like playing the Seahawks defense as a nice GPP play here, but I think that they make a difference because, as we know, in real life, the Buccaneers defense will run the Seahawks defense out of the gym, right? Or off the field, whatever. The Seahawks have Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner. Now, the thing about those two guys is they have the Avalanche X factor. And anytime they run at you, there's like an 80% chance you're going to fumble the football when they have the opportunity to throw the hit stick on. So I think that there could be a lot of turnovers in this game. I think that, again, you want to talk about carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. How about LaShawn McCoy, who literally carries it like a loaf of bread? They have the animation built into Madden. But I do think that this Seahawks defense, and all kidding aside, is really strong. I just have to side with the Seahawks here. I think that they have too much Madden sim talent. And when we look at, real life versus the Madden sims, there's a reason why the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, frankly, aren't as good as we think they should be in sims. And it's because the ratings don't always translate to success on the field. And I think that the Seahawks are deeper. I think that they have a better game plan on offense. Russell Wilson being able to run, we know from watching Sims, like it makes the Bears good when Mitchell Trubisky has the ability to run. Like any team that has a running quarterback has an advantage already because, with the AI, the defense will sag off and you get 10 for yards. So I just think the Seahawks have a lot of ways to beat the Buccaneers here. I think that they take this game. It should be low scoring. It should be very close. Should be very fun.
All right, guys, that game is tonight at 8 o'clock. So it's the 10-seed Seahawks. It's the top-seeded Bucks. I'll be on the call with Adam Kaufman. Again, there's a $35K contest. You guys can enter for $15, $10,000 to first place. I'll be back here on the Dream Stream at 3 for Get the Green with Reed. So we'll look back at this past weekend's tournament. Stuart Sink winning in Hilton Head and then tournament, or the PGA Tour rather, now moving to New Orleans. 5 o'clock, the Slates, an NBA edition with Chirag and Julian. So I will see everyone here in a few hours. Thanks for everyone for watching The Sweat. We'll see you back here again tomorrow morning for this show, 11 o'clock Eastern time.